let's make sure this section and interaction works on all breakpoints. Now I can see here in our design that basically as the screen is getting smaller, basically the card needs to fit. It takes almost the width of the screen, just a hint of the next card. And yeah, I can already see that when we're moving to tablet, the current sizing doesn't work. And so we're going to have to change this. But actually, let's get started with the top heading here, which also needs to change layout from left to right to top to bottom. So this section heading actually doesn't make sense as a grid anymore. Let's just turn it into a flex that is vertical. No need for this gap. Can make something like 16 maybe. Yeah. So heading looks good. Now we need to change the size of these cards. So let's get inside. Previously it was 33 viewport width. Now it needs to be almost everything. So maybe 80. Something like this. Yeah, something like 80 works. So we can change that. However, now that we've changed, because our animation is responsive, we're actually going to need to change the interaction, because the interaction, remember in the interaction, we set the transform, like how far it moves based on the size of the card. So we're going to need to have a version for, I guess, desktop and all of tablet, because let's see if this sizing, and let's change the gap here from 2.5 to maybe 3.5 or maybe even 5. Yeah, for the gap between them. Let's see if, before I change the interaction, I want to go down in the breakpoints and see if this sizing that I've set here actually works in mobile as well. It does work in mobile. The one thing that I do need to change for mobile landscape, and we need to think about, is the height, because 700 on mobile landscape basically means that people are not going to be able to see this. So I need to change this to something like maybe 300. This is not ideal, and we'll have to see how the backside looks in a second. Actually, maybe right now. Let's see how the backside looks if we're making this change. So I'm going to go to the backside, and I can just hide the flip here so we can see it. Actually, it looks good. For some reason, I have the bad typography here. The typography didn't... We've set it to 90%, and on tablet, 90%, and on mobile landscape, 90%. I guess in here it needs to be maybe 110. Oh, the heading here. Heading 3, got it, 90%. Okay. Okay, so the layout is actually good. Let's see on mobile. And on mobile, it doesn't have to be that small. We can go back to 700. On mobile, the backside doesn't work. So let's actually change this from flex to this vertical, but I want this to be on the top. This doesn't have a class because we removed the class, so I guess we're going to call it backside. Wait, actually, backside icon, because we don't want to mess around with the class of the other side. And let's make it first so that it's on the top, and also change the space between them. Okay. So, okay. Heading 3, by the way, on mobile should definitely be smaller. Yeah, this works. Okay, let's hide the backside again. Backside. Let's bring it back. Okay. Is 700 too much? Is what I'm asking myself. Maybe should be 600. Maybe even 500. Yeah. Yeah, I think this would work better. Okay. So what the important thing is that we know now that 80 viewport width as a size for the card works. So what we can do is go into our interaction, into our section that has this interaction, the scrolling interaction. And this scrolling horizontal, let's rename this scrolling horizontal desktop. and make sure that this animation only plays on desktop. So I'm going to disable this animation from all smaller breakpoints because I know, by the way, you know what? Let's preview this just so that we can see that right now it's just scrolling 2 cards because we've made the cards bigger, right? So the numbers in this interaction only work on mobile. So let's set it only for mobile and let's duplicate this. Let's actually create another while scrolling in view animation. Let's duplicate this and let's call this horizontal scroll. We're going to call this mobile, although we're going to use this for tablet as well. And here, we're just going to change the end from -83, which is basically just 1 card, to something bigger. Let's try to think. I don't know. I'm just going to try to wing it right now, and maybe 200. Preview this and see if this works. 1, 2, 3. Nope. Of course, we can go ahead and calculate this. 83 times 5 plus the gap. But some people are very organized. Perhaps you should be organized, but I'm a very move fast and don't calculate, just try to wing it. That's my approach. Not a recommendation, as they say, not an investment recommendation, but I don't like math and try to figure out, and I just play around until I get to the right number, which is around 300, I can already see. And yeah, it's a little bit less, so -320. You could have probably done this faster with a calculator, but there we go. -330 viewport width. And that is great. And this animation, let's save it. And we're going to turn it off on desktop. So this only works on tablet and mobile. Let's see if this works on mobile and if it makes sense. So we're getting here, scrolling 1, 2, 3, and we're getting perfectly, almost perfectly to the end. I think maybe we need to add a tiny bit to this interaction. Let's do it -340, but it should be right now and should work on all breakpoints. Fantastic. All right, so this section is now responsive.